There are two kinds of news articles that we will be talking about. First is the straight news, and the second one is the news feature. Straight news is a type of news that is consists of facts reported without elaboration. So these are the news that you commonly read in newspapers or that are being broadcasted by media. These types of news do not necessarily require opinions or elaborations from the writer, whereas there is a news called news feature. This is also based on facts. It's also about current events. It's also about factual information. But one thing that makes it different from a straight news is that in a news feature, writers may give their impressions or may describe and may narrate without resorting, of course, to biased opinion. Now we move on to the structure of news. As I have mentioned in the first part of this video, a news article is commonly structured in an inverted pyramid structure, meaning the most interesting or the most important part is on the first part of the news article. It suggests that it should be told in an order that the most interesting is first discussed, and then the least interesting or the least important parts would be discussed later or reported later. So this is the inverted pyramid structure. So right here we have a more elaborate look on the inverted pyramid structure. We have here first on the top part is the most important facts about the news article. Basically, this contains the answers to the WH questions, the who, why, when, where, and what, and the how question is usually answered in the lead, followed by the details or the background about the lead. It's the next necessary information or next most interesting or most important information as compared to the lead. Then we follow it by adding more details, and more details that is related, of course, to the first part or the most important part of the news article. This is the transition code formula. This is the formula used by news writers for them to come up with a successful news article. So first you have your lead. Your lead is the most important information. It focuses on the newest information that the readers must read. Then we have here additional information. Sometimes additional information after the lead is not needed, but for some news writers, they do incorporate additional information that are not found in the lead to link to the next direct quote. So right here, after the additional information or after the lead, you have your direct quote. Your direct quote connects to the additional information or to the lead, and it you could use more than one sentence in a direct quote provided that you have written the attribution first before the next sentence. After a direct quotation, you would be transitioning again using a sentence that could be a fact or that could be words that would connect the story to the direct quote. It could be a fact, it could be an indirect quotation, or it could also be a partial quotation. And then after your transition would be another direct quotation that is, of course, linked to your transition sentence. Use more than one sentence in your direct quotation. Yes, that could be fine. Do not repeat. Again, as I said, do not repeat what the transition quote or the transition sentence said in your direct quotation. It should not repeat, but it should elaborate further what is being presented in your transition sentence. Next, again, would be another transition sentence if there are more information or additional information that you would like to discuss. Another transition sentence that is the next important to the first transition sentence. It could also again be a partial quotation, a fact, or a direct or an indirect quotation, and then it would be followed again by a direct quote that is again connected to this transition, the second transition before the direct quote. And then again, the direct quotation should not repeat what is said in the transition quote, but it should elaborate on what the transition quote has stated. Next, the structure of Newts. We have the lead. We will be discussing further how you would be writing your lead. So lead is the first paragraph of the sentence. In news articles, we call the first paragraph as the lead. It is the most important part of the article and it summarizes the story. If you would be reading the lead of a news article or you would be writing the lead of a news article, it should arouse the interest of the reader and should answer the 5 W's and 1 H. So there are three types of lead: the straight lead, the novelty lead, and the blind lead. First is the straight lead. It is the most traditional lead that uses the 5 W's and 1 H formula, and it is straight to the point. It is the most common type of lead that you can read in news articles. So we have here a set of facts that could be part of the straight lead. So take note of this, and we will be uh, creating a lead out of these facts. So there are six possible leads out of the facts that have been provided. So it could be the who, what, where, when, or why and how. First is the who lead. It's like we will be starting at an angle where we focus on the who of the lead. The LPUC school board passed a resolution last night banning the wearing of caps in all school buildings. It could be what? Cap wearing was banned in all school buildings last night after the school board passed a new resolution. It could also be where. In LPU Cavite last night, the school board passed a resolution to ban the wearing of cap in all school buildings. Another one. When. Last night, the school board passed a resolution banning cap wearing in all school buildings. How about the Howley? By a 9-1 margin last night, the school board passed a resolution banning cap wearing inside the school premises. Or it could also begin with the why. Citing a pattern of early onset baldness in LPUC students, the school board last night passed a resolution that restricts cap wearing in all school buildings. So you see, we have six possible leads that you could use based on the provided facts in the previous slides. So we have another type of lead, it's called the novelty lead. It could be the astonisher lead, the contrast lead. So we have here an example of astonisher lead. Better attend your classes on November 5. Another one, the contrast lead. You provide contrast. 20 years ago, he was the school janitor. Now he came back to become the college dean. Epigram, it's a quotation. It's for example, like father, like son. You begin your article with any quotation, and that becomes another type of lead that is called novelty lead. Another one is picture lead. For example, you'll be describing a mental picture. The new dean, although only his 30s, is already haired. So it appears like you are creating a picture that would describe the subject in your article. Another one is the background lead. You describe the setting. It's somehow similar to the picture lead, where you describe the subject, but in the background lead, mostly the focus is on the setting of your article. For example, decorated by colored lights, the quadrangle became a grand setting for a Barrio Fiesta as LPUC celebrates its first founding anniversary, like that. So we also have the so-called parody lead. It's like um, you will be quoting a well-known song or a well-known poem, like "Never Say Never," or "This must be far away from the mind of a 45-year-old man who killed himself." And then we have the quotation lead. This is different from a parody lead because commonly in a quotation lead, it is based on the direct quotes that you have gathered in your interview. While the parody lead, it's already a well-known song or a well-known poem. Let's say, ignorance, not poverty, causes malnutrition. Thus revealed former Cavite Governor Vic Nakamura to the audience. Let's say. Next, we have punch lead. So the punch lead, it's short, it's forceful, it's explosive, like God is dead. And most likely, punch leads are always catchy. It drives interest among the readers. Another one is the question lead. Who will be the next Cavite governor? The answer will be known on May 9, for example. So it's like you ask a question in the beginning of your article. And then finally, we have the third type of lead, the blind lead. So again, let's have a recap. We have the straight lead, the novelty lead, and now we move on to the blind lead. It says here that if the person concerned is not well known to the community, or his or her name is less important than other salient facts that identify the person. So usually, I believe I have given already an example about the prominence of the person who is part of the article or the news. Let's say a carpenter saved a child. Let's go back to that. If the name of the carpenter is not well known or is not prominent, which means his or her name is less important or he is not well known in the community, then we proceed to doing a blind lead. We reveal the name of the person in the second paragraph of the article. So The transition from the lead to the story explains the blind lead. It usually uses keywords to provide transition from the lead to the chronological details of the body. So how do we make a blind lead? For example, a Nueva Ecija delegate clinched the top place in news writing at the regional school's press conference held July 12 in San Fernando, Pampanga. So you could see that in your blind lead, a Nueva Ecija delegate, as mentioned here, was the one written on the lead, while in the bridge, Jolas B. Zafir, editor-in-chief of the BSI CN Campus paper of the Blessed Children Integrated, vested some 75 division level winners. So the name Jolas B. Zafir is not as important as him being a delegate coming from Nueva Ecija. Since the name Jolas B. Zafir is not well known in the community, he is not a well known person in the community. So this becomes part of the bridge. His name becomes part of the bridge. Another example would be a high school freshman was slightly injured Sunday near the school in what police described as a one in a million freak accident. This is an example of a blind lead where the name is not mentioned in the first part of the paragraph or the article. A high school freshman was used to replace the subject. Then we move on to the bridge. Stephen G. Cruz, 12, was treated and discharged from the Cabiao General Hospital following the noon accident in which his bicycle was hit twice by the same tricycle. So that's it for part 2. Follow for more and check out part 3.